prevent our young lady from hearing the introductions of our gentlemen, we've been keeping her isolated off stage in a soundproof room. Let's bring her on stage right now. A former beauty title holder, she creates beauty of her own on canvas, and as an accomplished artist and sculptress, she hopes to open her own gallery. She's from Corpus Christi, Texas, finds relaxation in many outdoor sports. We're delighted to welcome to the dating game, Farrah Fawcett. He's been selected Mr. World 2 times, Mr. Universe 5 times, Mr. Olympia 4 times. He is an actor. He's studying business at UCLA, and Graz, Austria was his birthplace. Please join me in welcoming to the new dating game, the current Mr. Olympia, Arnold Schwarzenegger. She was the girl in the T-Bird in American Graffiti, and her book of poems entitled Touch Me is being hailed as a bestseller. I'd like you to join me in a warm dating game. Welcome for Suzanne Summers. She loves sketching and drawing, playing basketball and candy and bubble gum. Please join me in a special dating game. Welcome for a fine young man, Michael Jackson. Good luck to everybody, and here we go.
Number 3. If you were in charge of everything, what would you make the national pastime?
Oh, I would make the national pastime just love, because I think that's a great pastime. It's really good.
Okay, lady number 3. I've only been in this country 5 years, and there are some expressions I still don't understand. What does it mean, hanky-panky?
Well, let's see if you understand this. Playing around.
Playing around with what?
My goodness. We might have to take a little time with you.
Compare me to 3 of your favorite things.
3 of my favorite things.
Are you awake?
A beautiful sky.
Beautiful sky.
A beautiful sky, a warm sea.
Warm sea.
And soft sand.
Does that mean I'm all wet?
Number 1. Whenever I go out, girls are always following me. If we go out together and a bunch of girls start following me, let's hear what you say to them to make them go away.
Get away from him. He's mine, not yours.
Farrah, you now must make a decision. The question is, which one will be selected in your mind? The girls were marvelous, but only one, as always, gets the date with you now. Your decision. The 3 bachelors over there, unique in their own way, but only one gets the date with you. Now, which was your favorite? Each of the gals was charming, but only one of the 3 will be your date.
Number 2.
Lady number 2.
Number 2.
Number 1.
Cool. Just in case you're curious, there's lots of old footage, including one of Burt Reynolds not getting picked on the new dating game. So if you're curious, he was pretty young at the time, but it was pretty interesting for sure. So I was looking for some video. I thought that one was pretty light and a little bit politically incorrect, but not as much as some of our past shows. Also want to have a special thank you to our new show sponsors. We have Retail Resilient as our platinum sponsor, White Glove Performance Group, and then Automotive Business Solutions, John Latka. So if you have any questions about their services, feel free to reach out to Jeff or myself, or you can click the links on the website. Thanks again. A few book recommendations. Presence by Amy Cudley, Designing Your Life, and then So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. And I thought we would carry forward the movie recommendations. I got some old ones and some newer ones in here. So Norma Ray, Up in the Air with George Clooney, Tommy Boy, and of course a classic in the car business, Gung Ho. Jeff, maybe you can talk a little bit about our disclaimer.
Terrific. Thanks everybody for joining us. We always start the show with a cover or behind a disclaimer that just tells everybody that the views and opinions expressed here today are those of our guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the AutoHub show. And comments and here on our social media, the sole responsibility of the guests, the speakers, and writers of those items. So we don't accept any liability, blame, or accept anything written, spoken, or comment on. And please do read this when you go to our website. So thank you all for joining us again. Today is the Matchmaker Get a Job show. It is a trending topic as we've come out of the willingly, hopefully we're coming out of the pandemic. And today we have some very outstanding guests that are helping people, being the matchmaker, being the host of their own versions of the dating game. So again, we will, excuse me, move forward here with the introductions of our guests. We have, joining us today, we have Ian McEwen, the president of the Marcus Group in that very sprawling city of Toronto, Ontario, most likely Mississauga. Ian, can you take a moment and just introduce yourself to everybody, excuse me.
I'm Ian McEwen. I'm president of Marcus Consultants and the Marcus Group. We've been in automotive recruiting for about 23 years. Interesting, I always ask the question of many of the candidates that I talk to, what the hell was wrong with you when you decided to get into the car business? And it's interesting, I got into the car business, because my first job out of university, Ford Motor Company decided to pay me the most money. But 23 years ago, I decided to start working for myself, making money for other people, and started to make money for me. I spent 20 years at Ford Motor Company. Spent 4 years as the international director and general manager of Budget Rent-A-Car of Canada, and lived in Chicago for a couple of years running Speedy Auto Service. Relocated to Toronto in 1998 and started my automotive recruiting company, and I've had it ever since. So we specialize in basically 5 prime areas. In the car business, first of all, people who make the cars, people who, the distribution network of dealerships, the people who finance the cars, the people with technology, whose technology is utilized in automotive retail, and then looking after the customer after the car is sold. So it's after sales. So we have 5 silos that we recruit in. And that's us.
That's it in a nutshell. Thank you. We appreciate you joining us. And we're actually thrilled because we have 3 people here today that are kind of competitors and take the same job, but there's enough people to go around. Secondly, we have Jordan Reese joining us from the fine Calgary, Alberta, Canada, who's the CEO of Auto Careers. Jordan, can you take a moment and introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. My quick background, I chose to get into automotive, always a car enthusiast as a young kid. Went through the Georgian College Auto program, did a little bit of corporate with Lexus Canada, really didn't feel like that was my spot in life to be in a cubicle for the rest of my life. So I went retail with a Toyota dealership and ultimately got into recruiting in 2012 with Auto Careers Group, which was already founded by my partner Fareed Ahmed, and took over operations in 2015 as we expanded across the country. So our main office is over in Toronto, and then we opened Calgary in 2013 and have just been expanding that way. Our main focus is retail car dealers and suppliers to the industry. So finance companies, leasing companies, those things as well are in there. But we have been in operation since 2007.
Terrific. Thank you again for joining us. Frankly, everybody, the real reason that we invited Jordan here is because we think he has a very little known Banksy art piece behind him, as they call the Zen frog.
The Zen frog.
And last but not least, we have joining us from Naples, Florida, I think, Scott Traynor, who's the national manager of USA and Canada Motor Jobs. Scott, thanks for joining us. Tell us a bit about yourself, please.
Thanks for having me. Actually, currently right now I'm back in Montreal. Don't ask me why I came back. I'm back up here for a few months. I will be going back down to Florida after. So basically, I came from the automotive business. I started at 19 years old. I worked at Toyota as a salesman, working my way all the way up. I finished my career directly in the dealers, working at a Mercedes-Benz dealer as a sales manager, one of the ones here in Montreal. At that point, I was approached by now my two business partners slash bosses to come on board with them for USA Motor Jobs and Canada Motor Jobs. One of my business partners started I won't mention the name, one of the competitors here in Quebec about 15 years ago. And then he parted ways with them 5 years ago or so, started Canada Motor Jobs. And then 2 years ago, when I was approached, USA Motor Jobs was launched. So we're not a recruiter and agency, so I'm not exactly competition. These two guys can hash it out between each other. We're really here to change up the game. We're a portal where the job seekers and the employers connect in a whole new way.
Fantastic. That's great. You know, it's a very trending topic, as we said earlier. People looking for work, people hiring. Hopefully, with the involvement of you people, we can get of you fine gentlemen. Excuse me. We can get some great people back in or into the car business. So, without further ado, Ian, can you please?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff and I like to do obviously a really good job of the show, but also we've done a number of HR shows, and I just had a kind of an interesting question that sort of came to me last night as we were talking, which is we talk a lot to friends of ours in the business, but also unemployed friends of ours in the business, people looking for jobs, and we also have a lot of interactions with different headhunters, different recruiting companies, different dealerships, and also Sandy, who's on the call. She's been on the show before. And I hear a lot of talk from the recruiting side. It may not be specifically in the headhunting side about fit. I'm just curious if everyone could give me sort of their thoughts on how you would define fit, or more importantly, the perfect fit. And let's start with Ian.
Fit. Well, fit has a menu, and the fit is to me, fit is a two-way street. Fit is about the aspirations of the candidate, the skill set of the candidate, and how those skill sets and attributes blend with the job description and the need at the retail level or even the corporate level. Recruiting is a two-way street with us. It has to be good for the candidate. It has to be good for the employer. This is a marriage. So once you're able to define the fit, the skill sets, and understand the job description and understand what the needs of the employer are, and be able to mesh those together, the success rate is going to be will be a good fit. The marriage will fit.
Fantastic answer, Jordan Rees.
Great points, Mr. McEwen. You know, people have for a long time talked about culture within dealerships, and that gets towards the fit of candidates going in there. And we like to find that DNA. The odd thing right now with a lot of the cancel culture and things going on, we're actually seeing that start to pull back a little bit, and people are not using that word culture and fit, which shocked me a little bit through this. I think not having a culture or fit is still a culture or fit, but it will determine the success of both the dealership and the candidate that gets placed or recruited into each dealership. So all very good points. It's a hard, right now, we're going through a situation where a candidate doesn't necessarily use Zoom very often. So this would be a slightly more mature candidate, and they don't get their personality across very well on Zoom. So that's one of the challenges right now for anybody on here. If you are going through Zoom interviews to start and get your way in the door, make sure that you're bringing that personality, and maybe that might be practicing with somebody that you know, doing mock interviews over a Zoom type platform so that you can really get that personality out there, because that's really what's going to get you in the door.
Cool. Thanks for that. And Scott.
It is a bit different when it comes to us. We're not interviewing candidates or speaking with them unless there's an issue. It's the dealerships that would hire directly from our platform. They would speak directly with the candidates without going through us. Fit, now, the way we've designed the system is we're allowing candidates to showcase and highlight where their skills and attributes are. I mean, most of the new generation doesn't even know what a resume is or how to write one, and God forbid you ask them what a CV is, forget it. They're completely lost. So we're updating the game to show and highlight where their strong points are, where their weaknesses, and really with an algorithm will portray how they can match up with the dealership or the group that they are applying on.
Cool. Thanks. And do you feel that video is going to replace CVs in your business?
We're not using videos.
Okay.
It's basically building a profile. So the new generation, everybody has a Facebook profile, a LinkedIn, an Instagram. So we're kind of updating the game and allowing candidates to build their own profile instead of building a resume, which is the more forward way to go.
Right.
It's becoming less and less official, especially in the car business. The car business has always been more so yes or no official. I mean, especially when it comes to salesmen. It's not the most politically correct industry either. So we're trying to make it more modern age and allow the new generation to really get interested into working in the automotive sector. Now, at the same time, to fit the dealerships, and we're realizing that more with the larger groups, especially down in the States with the big publicly traded, their culture, I'll use Jordan's words, their cultures have to now adapt to the new generation. I believe a lot of them are having a harder time doing so because they're set in their ways. They do have people to answer to, but the culture to fit with the new generation has to be adapted as well because times are changing and who's coming into the industry isn't what it was for the last 20 years, what the typical candidate was.
Cool. Thanks for that. Jeff?
It's very interesting how you mentioned about the new generation. There's a saying out there that says that kids come out of school and they know that the mitochondrial system is the energy source of the body, but they have no idea how to write a resume or proper grammar to do that. Ian and I tend to spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, and something we've noticed a lot more now than we have for years is a lot of people's job title is now looking for new opportunities. Have there been a lot of positions been eliminated, or this is a great excuse for people being replaced for others that are deemed more suitable, either in fit or culture? And I'm going to hit Jordan up for that one.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that. Obviously, the pandemic has created a little bit of turmoil in the industry, and we've seen some consolidation in roles. I think that will be short-lived, to be honest, for the most part. Once the volume starts to come back and we get over some of these chip issues and inventory and all of those things, those roles will come back. I would say, we're still probably with the vaccine and everything out now, we'll start to see that pick up a little bit, probably in 30 to 60 days, where they start to unconsolidate and start bringing people back. Yeah, let's cross the fingers for everybody here on the show and all the guests, and just sort of start heading back to normal. But we've still got a few big hurdles to get over here.
Well, I think one of the biggest hurdles we have to get over, which has been around since the start of the car business, is the chips on the shoulders. Either on both sides of the
the auto industry, are you sure?
No.
Well, I think one thing Jordan, Mr. McEwen can attest to as well is you never see a technician with the open to work. Right now, we're in a big
open to side work, maybe? Open to side work.
A lot of them are doing that, but I'm sure both of them, they could feel my pain that That's the hardest right now. And if you see one with an open to work, you grab them right away.
Open to OT.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Scott, actually, seeing as how you piped up, are you finding this too? Are you finding that there's a shift or consolidation, the elimination?
There was for a while, I'd say right after the pandemic, right in the middle of the pandemic, sorry, where employees were getting furloughed and so on and so forth and restructuring. I mean, we work with some larger corporations, some of the rental car agencies, we won't mention their name, but they have their own auto sales as well. Well, we all know what happened with them. So there was a lot of higher up management positions, even that came from the open to work. But the ones that were skilled and qualified have already, I find, placed themselves already. So it's becoming less and less of an issue.
Okay. And actually, I've also come across a few people talking to people out there that some people have the feeling it was a great excuse to get rid of higher paid people and replace them with lower paid or tenured people, replacing with lower ones that cost them less. Is that correct too? Or
yeah, that's what I've seen. I mean, let's say there was 10 districts and they had 10 managers. Well, now they consolidated that and added more work, and I can attest that they haven't given more pay, but now they have 3 managers managing the 10 districts instead of 1 per.
Of course. Ian, what's your opinion on this?
We haven't seen, there has been, COVID has caused culling. There's no question about it. But we believe what we've seen, the culling has been in the sales associate area. It's also been in the supplier sales area. Those products and services that are utilized by suppliers that deal in the automotive retail industry, those salespeople, there has been some detriment in that area. We haven't seen a lot of dealership management changes. I agree there has been some consolidation. I don't think it's been rampant. We've seen reductions in sales associates. We've seen reductions in technicians as the service has diminished. That is coming back. Some of the management changes have been the result from what we have seen in dealership consolidation, in buyer groups buying smaller dealerships. And we've also seen it in family-run dealerships in which the family is now taking a more active role in leadership, and some of those managers then have been let go. So that's where we've seen the changes. But overall, dealership management, we haven't seen a plethora of departures in that arena.
Thank you, Ian.
Yeah, what are the most important steps a prospective employee should take to present themselves to prospective employers to stand out in the crowd and be noticed? Does that differ for different departments or fields? And why don't we start with Ian?
I think the key to presentation is I look at it when I go to Costco and go to the book section. I read a lot of books and nonfiction, and if I like the cover and I like the subject matter, I usually buy the book. And resumes to me are like that. And if you're able to, you understand the dealer position. You don't use a shotgun approach when you put a resume in front of an employer. You define exactly what your skill sets are. I hate looking in these. I know you guys are going to agree with me. I hate seeing resumes that are job descriptions. We've been in the car business a long time. I know what general managers do. I know what sales managers do. I know what F&I managers do. I don't care what you were responsible for. I care about what you have accomplished and what you have done. And then when you're in an interview, you can express, isn't that interesting how your accomplishments? How did you do that? And then you get to define your skill sets. And it's the skill sets that are transferable, not job descriptions. So if you're able to channel your career, what you're good at, and defend it in an interview, and it balances with the job description what you're looking for, then it's going to be a good fit. But resumes with job responsibilities, forget it.
Fantastic. Scott?
I mean, I have to agree and disagree at the same time with what Ian just said. Yes, job descriptions are good. We're not just listing everything you've done, but the qualifications you have and the skill sets are definitely what the employers are looking for. And then at the point of the face-to-face interview, I believe is where you sell yourself. Resumes where they are achieving this, achieving that, and trying to sell themselves. I tend to find that employers read through it and then they have a hard time comparing it with others. Whereas when you're using your qualifications, skill sets, and everything you've learned, you're highlighting what you know how to do. And then it's up to you on the in-person interview or the phone interview or Zoom interview, however you begin it, to sell yourself as a person at that point. You prove to them, hey, I can do the job. Now let me sell you my personality.
Thanks for that, Scott. Jordan?
Yeah, again, all good points. And the amount of times that we see resumes come in that are exactly that, listing off what their role and responsibility was and never any of their achievements. You have to think of the resume as your brochure. This is your way to get somebody interested in you, to get to that interview, and that is all with them. So what's in it for me? And on the dealer side or the hiring manager, that's all they care about. They don't care about your objective and your career future at this point until you become an employee with them. So it's all what will you get them to do? They're looking to get to that next level. I would suggest on the resume, because most of us in the auto industry are not resume writers, I would, and we don't offer this service, but I would look up somebody that can actually write the resume. The amount of sales mangers that I've seen come through. Get somebody that's all they do and can really represent you the best way possible.
You mean people aren't looking for people who know how to handle mangers?
Not in this marketplace, no.
Only at Christmas time. You know.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'll never forget. There was actually a COO of a group that I know, worked with, etc. And every word was THERE, whether it was there, they are, their house, etc., etc. And you know, that's one big thing we find. I don't know. I'm sure you guys do too. When you're looking at a resume or you're referring somebody or something comes to you, Scott, and the person's got all these letters behind their name and their punctuation isn't there. But they managed to graduate. So, gentlemen, what are the top 3 dealership positions being recruited for today other than sales? So, Scott, I'm going to hit you with that one.
Obviously, technicians. There's a big shortage, at least in the States. I know Canada is not as bad, but I mean, I've seen dealer groups up to $10,000 signing bonuses that they need them so bad in the States. And I don't know why there's no more Canadians that are like, hey, let me get out of here and go live somewhere hot and, you know, make more money. They're very well-paying positions. It's just I find the newer generation isn't getting into trade. So now, in the long run, that's going to be even tougher. And body work as well. So anything really to do with the trades that the students aren't getting into, that people aren't getting pushed to do, everybody's going to, the ideal thing getting out of school now is, oh, go to university and get a degree. Everybody's forgot about the trades and said, hey, you know, I can make more money going to fix cars and get out of school with barely any debt, or I can go get a degree that's not going to bring me anywhere and have tons of student debt. So those are really the positions that are hardest to find now: body shop and technician.
Jeff, we got a question from one of our audience members, Sandy. Maybe you can pose it.
Sure. Well, Sandy, by the way, we're going to call you to dance in a few minutes. Sandy's question is you've all mentioned the younger generation, as very soon 70% of our workforce will be millennials who can't drive standard and Gen Z. What strategies are you employing to attract and help dealers retain? Ian, I'm going to hit you with that one and then ask you to answer the top 3 positions, please.
You you know, the young people out of Canadian Automobile, the Institute up in Barrie, university grads who are really interested in the automobile business, I think it's important to break down the industry in silos. Okay, you look at the auto industry. You look at the areas in which we all recruit in. You look at the people who make the cars. There's a huge number of automotive manufacturers that have employment opportunities. You look at auto finance, captive, non-captive, prime, subprime. There is a huge amount of money that's put into servicing the automotive retail, and huge companies that do that. You're looking at technology. It's mushrooming with respect to the applications. I mean, if you're running an automobile business and you don't have one of these, you're in trouble. So the technology that uses applications and software to communicate with consumers and operate a business, there is a whole industry in that area. The aftermarket and remarketing and the growth in remarketing, the grosses that are made in remarketing. There are companies that have huge divisions. So any young person who's looking at an opportunity, look at those areas: after sales warranty, the tire companies, the automotive service companies. We all deal in those industries. So don't just look at getting a job at Porsche or Ford. Look at the other areas within the industry. Break down the silos.
Cool. Terrific. It's actually very funny because you mentioned the Automotive Business School of Canada, and we out here in the West, we see very few people that have gone there. It's usually people from Southern Ontario that have decided to, especially in Vancouver, run away from the winters and the summers and stuff like that. And I've always wondered how dealers will spend money, like a $10,000 signing bonus. Brendan mentioned that earlier, or someone, or money to hire managers and get rid of them after 3 months and hire somebody else. Why wouldn't these large dealer groups just offer a scholarship for someone from here to go to the Automotive Business School of Canada? That boggles my mind. And actually, we have a good friend of the show that's actually the Western, one of their instructors based out on Vancouver Island. But Ian, I'll ask you the top 3 dealer positions being recruited for, in your opinion.
You already asked Ian. You got to ask Jordan.
Okay. What are the top 3 positions that you're coming across, other than sales?
Sorry. Yeah. So, as you're mentioning, sales and techs, if you had them, you could place them all day long. For us, mostly right now, it's been sales management and fixed, obviously. We saw a bit of a shift during the pandemic where everybody was after that young gun, fresh, maybe 1 or 2 years. And during the beginning stages of the pandemic, they switched over a little bit to go to somebody who's a little more mature, has been through a couple of events, maybe the downturn in 08, 09, because some people in the younger generation were sticking their head in the sand. But I think it's kind of shifted back and balancing out a little bit. So, I think at the retail level, it's all management at the moment.
I think I'm going to touch. Sorry, Jeff and Ian. I'm going to pipe in here again. The question was, what strategies are you employing to attract the dealers to retain? And I want to touch on that because we are, to answer that more clearly, I don't believe there was an answer. What are we doing to do it? From the other guest, was we are implicating ourselves more with foundations. We are working with, somebody mentioned scholarships. We are working with foundations that are providing scholarships, that are trying to get the newer generation in. We are working with foundations that are working with returning veterans. There's many veterans that are coming back, especially in the States, that are very skilled laborers, but they don't know what to do. So we are bringing them interested in the automotive industry. A lot of them have the manual skill set, and they don't know what to do when they get back. a lot of people aren't informed as well that they can make a career out of all this, and it's almost a recession-proof career. I'm talking about technicians right now. We're working with different prison systems for nonviolent offenders. They're coming out with skill sets. Some of them even have auto mechanics courses in there. So we're really trying to implicate ourselves in the community and to find the people and let them know about the automotive industry. We're doing car shows as well. We're doing school visits to really let people know that there is a future in the automotive industry and to bring them in for long term.
I have a question about that because we had a show about that retention, and one of the ideas that came up during the show was, what if you had some sort of retirement plan as a dealer for someone who's maybe made it past 90 days as a retention tool? I'm just curious as to what the thoughts were, and I got a couple questions from the audience as well, but maybe Scott, you could start on that, see what you think.
The retention, well, that's basically where the signing bonuses are coming in. We're seeing those more and more, especially in the States. They're not paid out when you're hired. There is terms and conditions to getting it. Some of them is 6 months, some of them is a year. As simple as that.
Jordan?
Sorry. Yeah, no, I'd agree with Scott on that, actually.
Cool.
100%.
Ian?
I'm going to go back to the 3 jobs. Interesting that you eliminated sales associates, which are to me the most critical, what people are looking for. I think the second thing is we talked about is technicians, but those dealerships who are embracing electric vehicles and finding technical people who are able to build their expertise and experience in electric vehicles is primary. And the third area is digital marketing within automotive retail, both within an individual dealership as well as dealership groups. There are so many applications that are so beneficial, connecting to the customer, and we all know that connecting the customer to the OE and the level of communication between a customer and OE is very different from the communication and from a customer to a retailer. The topics are different, the communication is different, and the approach and the methodology and the messaging must be different. Should be very targeted. So those people who are, and at both new, used, parts, and service, that is the growth in digital technology relating to the car business, from our perspective, is in high demand.
So Jeff, there are a couple questions. Thanks for that, Ian. Are you finding that employers are looking for a different skill set in their leadership roles today? And we'll start with Ian since we just finished up. What do you think?
We've seen and have clients that, particularly large dealer groups, who have brought in senior people who bring a bit of a different strategy, a different business strategy, perhaps a different business approach to blend out through their organization. But when the rubber hits the road, it's the people that are on the floor, that are in the dealership, that understand the process, that understand the strategy, work within that culture of, and when you bring in senior people to try and change the culture, to have that cascade down to the people that are on the floor can be challenging, and it can be time consuming. So, it's all about when the customer is either buying a car online or in the showroom. That's where the revenue is made.
Okay. Scott, any thoughts on that?
I really say it varies. Depends on who you are working with. When we tend to work, it's really the groups or associations culture themselves. Some of them have an older mentality. Some of them have a very corporate mentality. And then I find that the smaller or privately owned or family owned, if you will, groups tend to be more open-minded and want to change for the times. So the ones with the corporates or the publicly traded companies, they tend to have set guidelines, set ways, set mentality, and they're looking for more of the old school, where the newer, the more open-minded privately dealers want to adapt to the times, and they're the ones bringing in the newer generation as well to serve the clients.
Thanks for that. Jordan?
Yeah, I think with our conversations, there are a lot of people that, because there are so many conversations going on around the topic, that in theory they think it's a great idea, and they may hire based on that. But then once it's there, if you haven't changed everything from the top down, it just doesn't work. So that's when you start to see the turnover. You may have long-term staff that suddenly they're confused about what processes are, and they're gone. And ultimately the manager you brought in will be gone. So it really has to be a thought out process and a complete mind shift for anybody that's going to make that switch over, and not everybody can do it.
But Jordan, wouldn't you believe that even though it might be a bit disruptive in the dealership, bringing in a management with that position, it would be long-term beneficial to the dealer or the group, because that's where the culture is going? Yes, it might be disruptive. Yes, there's going to be a big turnover, but it's a bit of pain now for.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm not saying it's not beneficial for them to do it, but I think that if, in theory, the dealer thinks or knows it's a good idea to shift that way, but then if they don't adapt themselves, it doesn't work. And then what happens is your lower levels of management or the staff on the floor, they get mixed messages. They've got a new manager in saying one thing, but then they've still got their original dealer principal manager still in the old mindset. And so,
I've been in that. Yeah, I've been in that.
Yeah. So it has to be a complete shift if you're going to do it, and really plan it out and then move forward.
I fully agree.
And we got another question from an audience member. Thanks very much, guys. What do you suggest for someone who is 20 years in automotive, who is looking for an opportunity to put down roots, but wants the right fit? At the same time, personally, I've been off 6 months now, and my region where there are ads, there's very little external hiring taking place, despite the ads being run. Any advice? You want to start, Jordan, since you were just talking?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I have found recently there are a lot of phishing ads out there just to see who's kind of in the market. And, I know that dealers are starting to focus that 6 months out and see who might be in the market. Honestly, I would be trying to see how I can get myself in front of those types of people that are the hiring manager. Use your network and get an introduction that way. Right now, hiring managers, they're just inundated with resumes that are unqualified people from all over the place. So you just have to find a way to get your self in front of them, and a referral from somebody who's trusted by them is your best way.
Cool. Ian?
Jordan starts. That's a good point. We look at some of the mature people of who have a management background, and we ask them, well, you were able to build a business plan for your direct reports. Your next job is building a business plan, and the title of that business plan is you. And it's a matter of building a strategy. It's using your network, looking at consumers, looking at associates, looking at factory reps, siloing the industry, as I talked about. It's look at it's networking, and finding a job is like having a job Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You have to keep a record of the people that you associate with. I don't know what software you can use, Salesforce, whatever. But when you identify the people that you contact, the phone numbers, the email addresses, the level of communication, whether it's by phone, whether it's by cover letter, whether it's by can I stop by and have a cup of coffee? I'd like to talk to you about some industry issues that I need some more feedback, whether it's a telephone call. You just have to be diligent and be very just stay on plan, and be diligent about making those calls, like cold calls, and building a networking list. That's Jordan's right. That's how you do it.
I actually have a comment on that, because, and this is something Ian and I have discussed a lot, because we know quite a few people who are grown-ups, and I like to use that term instead of mature, who are having a heck of a time. They got caught up in the I think Ian, you mentioned the term culling,
Yeah.
and now they're looking for something, and their whole career, especially in management, they follow the whole thing of it isn't about you, it's about the team, and way to go team, and it isn't me, because when they succeed, it's them, and then they have to pivot and say to somebody, I am great. And it's a very interesting thing for somebody that's mature. That's a real tough thing. Would you agree?
Well, Jeff, one of the things that that's also in this menu of things that people should consider, these mature employees. And one of the elements we ask people to look at is when they want to figure out what's your ideal job, what do you want to do, and what's your passion. I got my passion 23 years ago. I decided I was going to be independent. Great change in compensation, but when you stick to it, this is what I wanted to do. And I ask people, do you have a passion? Do you have a hobby? Is there something that you would like to do on your own? Do you have the financial wherewithal to be able to support that transition? And do something for you if you really, really believe and that's what you want to do. So just like having a job, it's like being a manager. So,
Scott? Thanks, Ian.
Well, like everybody knows, the automotive sector is very small. So everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows somebody that's in a dealer in the area. All the salesmen know each other from different dealers, all the groups. Implicate yourself in the Facebook groups. Implicate yourself in community groups. Ask questions. Ask the people who have been there for so long. Ask about the culture. Do your research on the store that you're interested in. Find their senior guys. Ask your friend who knows your friend or somewhat. And then learn more about them and learn if that's where you really want to set your roots, because the best people to tell you are the people that are working there right now. I would do my research before going to the hiring manager. They're going to tell you what you want to hear, and they're going to tell you a big, beautiful story of why you should work with them, especially with the skill set you're bringing after 20 years. So do your own research first. Find out about the longest people have been there. I mean, we were working with one store where they went through, it was over 100 salespeople in 3 years. So they were great at hiring people. They obviously told everybody what they wanted to hear, but do your own research first. Ask somebody who knows, ask somebody in the community groups. With social media now, it's so easy to find out. I won't mention the names of the groups, but there's tons of Facebook groups, so you can go, hey, what does everybody think about there? And I guarantee you somebody will answer.
Yeah, thanks for that. I had a couple comments. One of them was about Clubhouse. If you're not already on Clubhouse, highly recommend. There's a lot of active groups, a lot of dealers, and there's a lot of people in the industry. And it's really interesting. I'm not saying it's going to last, I don't know, but it's an interesting way to connect with other people in the industry. But we have a couple other ideas. Do you work with your dealer partners to help them craft and communicate the employee value proposition? Maybe we start with Scott.
By employee value, sorry.
Do you work with your dealer partners to help them craft and communicate the employee value proposition for the dealership?
When we're talking about the setup for the pay plans and how the benefits, are you?
Proposition. So why they should consider working for that dealership, I guess. Sandy, you have a comment? You want to clarify?
Well, I can help clarify what employee value proposition is.
Okay. Go ahead.
I have had people ask me, because it's also called the EVP. So, sometimes people are like, the executive vice president? Like, no, that isn't what it is. So, for those of you who are new to me, I am Sandy Zanino, and I'm an HR consultant. So this is my little wheelhouse right here. So I have a firm belief that we need to flip the lens and begin to look at our candidates and our employees as clients, right? So if we do that, there are internal clients. So then our candidates are now prospects. So if we use in the automotive industry, our amazing ability for customer service and coming up with a value proposition, why this customer needs to buy from our store. So now it's, why does this employee need to come and work at this dealership, right? Like, look at their what are these new generations' fears? What are they looking to get, and how is the dealership going to deliver that?
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Basically, this actually touches right to the way we work. With the setup on our system, it is allowing the dealerships to show their benefits for working, the conditions of work, how they match up, and even the commute time in traffic. We know everybody, our system live calculates it. Everybody's worried about how long it's going to take. And before any job posting goes up, we have to approve everything, because we will then rank the dealers and tell them, hey, according to your area, with what you are offering, perhaps you should change it up a bit, or offer a bit more, or offer better benefits, or so on, because you are one of the lowest ranking dealerships in your area. So we're not afraid to tell them, because in the end of the day, we're not a recruiter or an agency, so we're not there just to collect a paycheck for hiring somebody, for placing somebody. They post their positions on the site. If somebody applies, they apply. If they don't, they don't. So we're not afraid to tell the dealer, hey, you're ranking higher, you're ranking low with what you're offering candidates nowadays.
So, Scott, I have a question, if I may.
Yep.
How do you drive the candidates to the website?
So we are newer. We launched a year and a half ago or so in the States. Canada, we're pretty good. We started here in Quebec. COVID obviously slowed everything down. So we are a lot in social media groups. We have a social media team. We're in different community groups on social media as well, not just on our platforms. At the same time, we do car shows. We're in with schools. Like I mentioned before, we're in with the penitentiary system. We're in with foundations. We're in with veteran groups. So we're actually trying to change up the way people find out about us. And we're doing community events. We're doing meet and greets, so on and so forth, to bring people into our system. So we're not just passively sitting back hoping for the best. We're working to get the people out there.
Cool. I actually have a comment from Stephen here, and it's very interesting what he says here. He says his father lost his job in his 50s, and the only job he could find at the time was selling cars. And he went from selling at a Ford store to working at a Cadillac store, and then became an F&I manager at a BMW store. And he said without the auto industry, his parents would have been in a bad place in life. And he thinks oftentimes it's a story to be told about helping out more mature people in the space, and this gives them a second opportunity in life for people. And that's very, very, very interesting. It's sometimes the people we talk to, that's why we mentioned this, that are grown-ups, are finding that they're getting overlooked. And just an opinion that people want the young, cool, and et cetera, people are looking, he mentioned too about the 100% commission issue for everybody in the dealership. Scott, seeing as how you're directly looking me in the face and you got the attention, are dealers look at a changing compensation to attract people?
They are more and more, yes. I've seen everything across the board, from the great pay plans to the horrible pay plans. But in the end of the day, the ones that are ready to adapt, margins are getting smaller and smaller, as everybody knows. So we are seeing some adding larger base salaries and then smaller commissions just to cater to the new ones. When you're looking at groups such as Tesla or others, they're working on flat fees often a lot as well. They're just getting paid per vehicle. So it's really turning into a customer service industry. There's always going to be the sales aspect. There's always going to be the ones making big money. But then you have others. I always like to say the new generation doesn't know how to sell as well as our generation did. But they're great in customer service. So it's changing up the game, and it really is. To touch on your point where you're saying the older generations, that's really a matter of them adapting to the time. I've seen older generation folks adapt great and kill it in the new market and kill it the way with social media, the way advertising, the way they have to work now, and then others are set in their ways. So that's really going to show through on the interview, whether they're willing to adapt or not. And the dealers normally, if you're willing and you're killing it, working the new way of working with social media, with how everything is, they have no problem hiring you just because of your age.
Definitely check out the Old Dogs versus Young Guns show for some illustrations on that point.
Yeah.
Ian, maybe you have some thoughts on that?
It's difficult. We have a menu of assignments right now. As we deliver candidates, appropriate candidates to our clients, we see a movement towards kind of the younger, ambitious managers. You look at a situation with the mature people. It depends on their background. It depends on their title. It depends on with whom they have worked. And sometimes they ask the question, well, I've got 15 years experience or 20 years experience. And the comment is, no, you have 1 year experience 20 times. And our clients today are looking for dynamic, progressive team players, good vitality, bring high level of interest, high degree of technology, being tech savvy, being able to build relationships, consultative selling. That's what it's all about today. It's difficult for mature managers from retail dealerships to reset themselves. We all bring up good points. Scott brings up a good point. So it's not easy, but if you're targeted and you are able to communicate exactly what your skill sets are and deliver it, it's easier. With strong networking, it's a whole package.
Thanks. Jordan?
Yeah, again, all good points. And Ian, like you're talking about with skill set, the one thing I noticed with the mature candidates, they're used to tracking their own performance and not waiting for that report to come in. So if you are a sales manager, GSM, knowing all of your numbers, closing ratios, pump in, pump out, everything that's going on and how you're going to overcome those things. That's where I do enjoy having the conversations with the mature candidates, because they typically do know those things. They've been taught to track those. And the challenge with the mature is, are they tech savvy? Are they on social media? Are they doing those things and keeping their skills upgraded? Like Ian said about you have 20 years experience, but it's really 1 year, 20 times. What have you learned during that 20 years, and how can you portray that out to the world that you have kept up with all of those things that are going on in such a social world?
Fantastic. And Jeff, insensitive to time, maybe we can start with a round of final comments, maybe some advice for people that are trying to change their career or upgrade their career or just looking for something. I don't know what your thoughts are. Go ahead.
Me?
Yeah.
Well,
you're the only guy. No, go ahead.
No. I'm the resident old guy. It's what's the best way for somebody to contact somebody to help them find a job? Really, that's the bottom line. Somebody that's mature, they're kind of getting the feeling that maybe they're being overlooked. What would you recommend? I know, Ian, you mentioned this, McEwen. You mentioned this earlier, get in front of people. That is the best bet?
Again, it's a target from my perspective for a candidate. It's a targeted approach. Using a shotgun approach. Just putting an ad on the internet or on your social media or on your own website, and you get flooded with people, and you shake your head and you look and say, well, why? I'm not even going to waste my time to read it. So it really is. It's got to be focused. It has to be targeted. And when you do the research, not only with what you're good at, but what the employer is looking at. I go back to the fit. This employment in this industry, with any industry, is a two-way street. It's got to make sense for the employer and it's got to make sense for the candidate. And you've got to work at understanding where all the touch points are, where everything is blended together. And you do that with solid research, understanding of the company, do the research of the company, do the research on the interviewer, find out who's going to interview you, and do some research on the company and the people. Is this the kind of company you want to work for? And you can put your best foot forward, that your skill sets will marry up with exactly what they're looking for, and you can communicate it correctly. So.
Yeah, sure. By all means, it's a tough thing, you know. I mean, you feel the frustration of people out there, and you know, I like, Jordan, your comment that you think it's all gonna change back again as we open up and get busier and get real chips instead of the shoulder chips. So we thank you, everybody, for joining us. We try to keep the show to an hour because we know you're busy, and you know, for everybody's taking time out and from their days, and we appreciate it. But I think it was our viewers appreciated it as we got along. We you know, people will be reaching out to us, and hopefully we can pass on people to any one of you if you're interested, and you know, and see if we can't be a real matchmaker and get that dating game going. So, gentlemen, just as we end, if I can, any final comments from Scott, Jordan, Ian McEwen?
Oh, well, thank you guys for having us. I know we are newer to the game, but we are here to change it up. So I just want everybody to experience the new way of connecting in the automotive industry, either on CanadaMotorJobs.com or USAMotorJobs.com. We're quickly coming. Our app is launching on both platforms, and expect a lot more from us in the future.
That's great. Thank you so much. Jordan, anything else?
Yeah, no, just thank you for having us on here, and it was a great conversation. And you know, we don't right now get to see everybody, so it's really good to be here.
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's the big joke, of course, of Zoom interviews is, are they wearing pants? And Ian McEwen, I've got to tell you something. I picked up something great from you today, and that is the fact that we see these ads in the paper, we send in a resume, and then we go, I hope I can, but we forget that the employer is getting 60, 70, 80, 100 applications. And I mean, you guys, obviously, my daughter works for the city of Vancouver as a recruiter. And, you know, I'm scared she's going to get a hairline like me from pulling her hair out at so many. And it is true that you've got to stand out. And I think that's just a terrific thing. And, you know, I know when I was managing stores, I hate to say it, as much as it pissed me off that somebody would just walk in and say they want to meet you, I'd always force myself to get off my desk because I tried to not have that infamous chip on my shoulder and walk out and say hello. And you don't know how many times somebody just really impressed the heck out of me in that first 15 seconds that I said, hey, come in and sit down. So that's great.
You know, in our business, in our recruiting business, this is a partnership. We get employed by our clients, and it's top line communication, consistent communication, and it's a partnership. We are representing our client, its business, its culture, its people, its family. So we try hard to really understand those elements within our clients and how we're representing them, and be able to communicate that with properly to our candidates. So it's we enjoy the partnership.
Great. Well, my final comment is, what's really nice with people who are like yourselves, who are centered around the car industry, you understand people that have oil in their veins. And because the one biggest complaint I hear from people that get contacted by someone not in the industry is that the recruiter contacts them, talks to them, and then they never hear back from them. They never get an email. They never get a reply. So we all know how, you know, basically people in the car business are relationship people, even text. So with that, we will thank you all, our viewers. We appreciate it. Our loyal sponsors, John and Barry and Gail, and White for next week. Another great show. Please tell your friends. With that, good day, stay safe, and
Everyone.
take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.